Yo, all right, hold up. There we go. What's going on, y'all? What's going on, New Jerus? What's going on, Hunter? Good to see y'all. Happy Thursday to everybody here. One more day left in the week. One more day closer to the start of the football season. And today I'm here with no Nick. Nick is still he's still in Pittsburgh enjoying the bachelor party for his friends. So hopefully he's having a good time out there. But I'm back, not skipping a day. I'm chilling with y'all today, and it should be another fun live stream today. Yesterday we had a good live stream with all the members. Today we're hoping to bring some of that the good vibes that we had yesterday, bring them into today. Today we're going to be talking about one player from each position group. What's going on, Slim? That is I think is a value today or right now in based on where they're being drafted in terms of their ADP and what they bring to the table. And then we're gonna have a mock draft. We're gonna do a mock draft with y'all, and then general talk in general and answering of any questions, fantasy related questions. So you already know if you have any questions related to fantasy in any format, throw them in the chat. Let us know your format. If it's 1QB, 2QB, half PPR, standard, or PPR, throw it in the chat, and we can have a discussion about it with the guys. So thanks for joining us again. And since we don't have any questions in the chat as of right now, I am just gonna get started. And you kind of know, if you clicked on the thumb, you kind of already know who we're going to be talking about today. But the first player that we have up is Kyler Murray. Because Kyler Murray's current ADP is 59.6. He has as high a ceiling as pretty much any quarterback in the league from a fantasy perspective. He's being drafted as the QB5 at the end of the 5th round in underdog drafts right now, and we use underdog as our benchmark for ADPs because that's where all the smart drafters are. So if you want to stay ahead of the curve, or at least keep yourself locked in to where the smart drafters are drafting these players, it's a good idea to look at underdog ADPs. And right now, Kyler Murray is going at the end of the 5th round. So going after a guy like Kyler Murray, just off rip, he allows you to get your RB1 and RB2, your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, and then pick up a stud QB if you end up getting him in the 5th round. And I'm going to run through a few stats for you guys real quick about Kyler Murray. He's had at least 3,700 yards passing in every single season, at least 20-plus passing TDs in every single season. His completion percentage, as far as growth, his completion percentage has grown every single year. In his rookie season in 2019, started out at 64.4%. And then his completion percentage grew in his second year in 2020 to 67.2%. And just last year, it was 69.2%. And then yards per attempt has grown every year as well. 6.9 yards per attempt in 2019, 7.1 in 2020, and 7.9 in 2021. The guy's just been continued to get better every single year. Last year, he was 8th in deep ball attempts, but number 1 in deep ball completion percentage. And it just so happens that, yes, I know DeAndre Hopkins was hit with a 6-game suspension earlier in this offseason, but the Arizona Cardinals traded for one of the best, if not the best, pure deep threat in the league in Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown has a route win rate of 8th in the league, 6th in unrealized air yards last year because Lamar was 20th in deep ball completion percentage. And guess who's number 1 in that metric last year? Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is also number 1 in true completion percentage, which factors out throwaways and drop passes when factoring in completion percentage. So he was number 1 in that metric. Number 3 in true passer rating, which again factors out throwaways and drop passes. So, I mean, elite metrics there, elite analytics. His passer rating versus man coverage was 2nd in the league. and a lot of quarterbacks struggle with zone coverage, but it's good to know that this guy is elite when it comes to having to deal with man coverage. On top of that, we already know Kyler Murray is not just a passer, not just an elite level passer. He was 4th in carries last year with 88 carries, 4th in red zone carries with 20, 4th in rushing yards last year, 4th in rushing touchdowns last year with only 5. So technically he's due for some positive touchdown regression there if you factor in a guy like Jalen Hurts had 10. And Kyler Murray missed 3 games. So he was 4th in all those categories: carries, red zone carries, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns, and he missed 3 games. And you can get this guy as the QB5 right now. And he's coming at a discount because DeAndre Hopkins not going to be available for the first 4 games. But something that we brought up a ton on this live stream, on this podcast, on this YouTube channel, however you're listening to it, was that he was number 1 in fantasy points in 2020 through 16 weeks. And then in week 17, which is usually a meaningless week when you're talking about fantasy and when you're talking about playoff hopes, usually week 17 is, before they elongated the season, was kind of a throwaway week. In week 17, he lost out to Allen because Allen put up big numbers and Kyler didn't. But from weeks 1 through week 16, the fantasy season in 2020, your QB1 was Kyler Murray, not Josh Allen. He was 4th in fantasy points per game in 2021, despite playing 4 games without DeAndre Hopkins and playing 6 games dealing with a lower body injury. So even without his number 1 receiver, and even while he was injured and couldn't utilize the rushing aspect of his game to the fullest extent, he was still 4th in fantasy points per game. Murray averaged 24.9 fantasy points per game and 8.7 yards per attempt in the 9 games with Hopkins fully healthy. He also posted the number 1 ranked Pro Football Focus passing grade, which was a grade of 90.5, while he was playing with DeAndre Hopkins. And yes, Murray's production dipped a little bit last season without DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup over those final 4 weeks of the season. In those final 4 weeks of the season, he averaged 18.8 fantasy points per game, which is still pretty good. Still pretty good, and he had 6.3 yards per pass attempt. He was still QB6 over that span. Which is, it's kind of crazy that you can get the QB6. He was the QB6 without his number 1 wide receiver, without a game-breaking wide receiver. His wide receivers out there were A.J. Green, Christian Kirk, Zach Ertz was doing the most throughout that span. Rondale Moore was contributing to a certain extent. They didn't have Chase Edmonds. They were dealing with only James Conner. And James Conner got hurt for those last few games too, so they were running the ball with Eno Benjamin last year towards the end of the year as well. And still, Kyler Murray ended up being the QB6 over that span. So at his floor without DeAndre Hopkins, he's a top 6 quarterback. But with DeAndre Hopkins, we have seen in 2020, he was the QB1 for the duration of the fantasy season. So he is a huge, huge target for me. In really any season-long format, best ball, redraft. If you can buy the dip on him in terms of in Dynasty, if anybody in your league is low on him, pick him up. See if you can throw out a trade for him for sure, because Kyler Murray has some of the best upside in the league, and getting him at basically QB5, QB6 prices is kind of crazy to me. And coming off talking about Kyler Murray, since we don't have any more questions in the chat, or we still don't have any questions in the chat, please throw y'all questions in the chat. We are going to go right into the number 2 player. And I don't have him ranked. He's not really the number 2 player. I'm just going by who I have on this list. So we went quarterback with Kyler Murray, and a guy that I really like, a guy that is a target for me in any season-long format as in terms of wide receivers, is DeAndre Hopkins. Because, Hunter, I see you. I know we talked about this a little bit on our members-only stream yesterday when we were doing the mock draft. The question was brought up of whether or not you should be drafting Michael Thomas first or DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is being treated like Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is injured. And yes, D-Hop is serving a 6-game suspension, but he is fully healthy. There are no health concerns with DeAndre Hopkins like there are with Michael Thomas. Chris Godwin, also injured, is being drafted ahead of DeAndre Hopkins. People are treating DeAndre Hopkins like he's hurt, but he's just dealing with the 6-game suspension. As soon as that 6-game suspension is over, he's going to be playing with the quarterback he already has rapport with. And I feel like people are kind of worried that he's hit this age cliff. Oh no, he's 30 years old. He got injured for the first time in a few years last year, and now I'm worried about whether or not he can stay healthy for a full 16, 17-game season. But prior to last year, DeAndre Hopkins was crazy consistent, missed 2 games in 4 seasons. He was the wide receiver 2 in 2017, wide receiver 3 in 2018, wide receiver 4 in 2019, wide receiver 5 in 2020. See that trend? Yes, it's technically not trending in the right direction. But in 2021, he was the wide receiver 6 in fantasy points per target before going down. So, okay, all right. So for the past 5 years now, he has technically declined in every single season, technically. But he went from the wide receiver 2 in fantasy points per game to the wide receiver 6. So if that trend continues, oh man, he's going to be the wide receiver 7 in fantasy points per game this year. What is the reason to stay away from DeAndre Hopkins if that is the case? People are worried about him being older in age, picking up his first major injury. But he was still electric last year. In 2021, DeAndre Hopkins was 6th in juke rate at the position. So people are acting like, oh, he's hit this age cliff and is all of a sudden unathletic. That is not the case. He was 6th in juke rate in 2021. And Hunter, that comment is straight up disrespectful. DeAndre Hopkins is not made of glass. He was not out all the time last year. He played the first full 8 games. He played half the year, then picked up an injury, then came back from the injury, and then was shut down because he couldn't technically maintain that level of play without the injury, or while dealing with the injury. But made of glass, man. Like, come on. Come on, that's straight up disrespectful. Prior to last year, he missed 2 games in 4 straight seasons. I think it flip-flopped. Like, it was 15 games, 16 games, 15 games, 16 games from 2017 to 2021, 2020, and then 2021. Obviously, played half the games before he got injured, and then came back a little bit. Couldn't contribute on the field, and then they shut him down. But saying he's made of glass, that's crazy. And honestly, DeAndre Hopkins right now, ADP of 72.9 on Underdog Fantasy. So he's available at the beginning of the 7th round. His ADP last year was 21. You weren't getting him if you didn't draft him at the end of the 2nd round. And he has 0 injury concerns right now. He's fully healthy. And if you are really worried about not being able to have DeAndre Hopkins, if you have a Kyler Murray, if you completed that stack like I am advocating for, if you're really worried about not having D-Hop for the first 6 games of the year, AJ Green has an ADP of 194 right now. You can get him at the top of the 17th round. And I know what you're thinking. Why the hell would I ever go after AJ Green in 2022, but from weeks 14 to weeks 18? When Kyler Murray was back in the lineup, sans DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green had 3 games in that 4-game span with more than 8 targets. He didn't catch a touchdown. So the numbers technically didn't reflect that he was hyper targeted throughout that span. But if you're worried about not having DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games, you can get an approximation of what his value would be, a definite approximation, but approximation of what his value will be with AJ Green, and pay nothing to get him. And to be honest with you, getting a D-Hop Kyler stack for the last 11 games in 2022 makes you primed for playoff success. Because again, D-Hop will have skipped the first 6 games, come back healthy. He will technically have less tread on his tires on the year than pretty much any other wide receiver that isn't coming off an injury. And they play Denver week 15, should be a shootout. Tampa Bay week 16 should be a shootout. And Atlanta week 17. 2 out of 3 of those last 3 games will be shootouts. And Atlanta, they're at least a beatable defense through the air. And for the first time in really since he's been in Arizona, DeAndre Hopkins will be playing opposite a great deep threat. For the first time since he was playing opposite Will Fuller in Houston. And in those last 2 seasons, while playing opposite Will Fuller in Houston, he had 13 and 11 touchdowns, respectively, in 2 years. And he never dipped under 1,370 yards. Now, I know we're going back in time a little bit. And at that point in time, we were talking about a DeAndre Hopkins who was 27, 28, and now he's 30. But still, I think people are disrespecting Hunter, case in point. I think people are disrespecting DeAndre Hopkins right now. You can get a wide receiver who was being drafted at the end of the 2nd round last year, at the beginning of the 7th round this year. And if you're trying to be forward thinking with this pickup, with your pickup of your wide receivers, you still have 3, 4, 5 chances to pick up wide receivers ahead of him. Get him in the 7th round. Stack him with Kyler if you take Kyler in the 5th round. And then by week 7, you have one of the best wide receiver quarterback tandems in your fantasy league. And it's off to the races for the playoff push and then moving into the playoffs. So do not disrespect DeAndre Hopkins. I won't stand for it, Hunter. If you keep disrespecting DeAndre Hopkins, man, you're not going to be able to mock with us later. But I really like DeAndre Hopkins considering the discount you can get him at this year. People are forgetting that he's not injured. He's just serving a suspension. People are forgetting that he was one of the most productive wide receivers over the last 5 years. Yes, he picked up an injury last year. Nobody stays healthy all the time in the NFL. But DeAndre Hopkins represents a supreme discount. Supreme discount. But all right, now let's get to some of the questions in the chat. Hunter, thoughts on Saquon? Hey, Saquon has league-winning upside anytime he's on the field. Week-winning upside. If he can stay healthy, he should be a threat for 70 catches as a floor. And he should get to around 250 rushes on the ground. If you're talking about D-Hop is made of glass. I mean, Saquon has more injury history than D-Hop. Nobody's saying Saquon's made of glass. Everybody's kind of in on Saquon. And everybody who runs this channel, i.e. me and Nick and I, we're both in on Saquon too. He did make Nick's top 12 at the position in terms of 2022 rankings for Redraft. He didn't make mine initially, but after having talked it out with Nick on a live stream a few weeks ago, I did end up moving him up into that 12th pick. And this is the first year you can draft Saquon at his floor. Saquon has been a top 5 drafted player since he came into the league. Since he had that insane rookie year where he caught 90 plus catches and had 300 plus rushes and was a true league winner. You can now draft Saquon at his relative floor. There are many running backs who are going ahead of Saquon in your drafts right now. So he presents a value for really the first time ever since his rookie season. So I'm definitely in on Saquon. I'm not exactly sold on that offense, but Brian Daboll coming over there and hopefully executing things better than Joe Judge has in the past, I think that bodes well for Saquon. There are technically a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, but it doesn't really take away from Saquon's upside. Yes, Kenny Golladay is there. If Kenny Golladay has a better year, it should help Saquon find some space in the short to intermediate game, in the run game. Same with Kadarius Toney. If Kadarius Toney can stay healthy and be a little bit more consistent on a week-to-week basis, that helps out Saquon because it spreads out the defense, opens up the field a little bit more. Wan'Dale Robinson, same deal. If he can come in and be an effective player, that opens up the field a little bit more for Saquon. Anything's better than Evan Ingram. And they got my boy Dan Bellinger there now, so hopefully he can do better than what Evan Ingram has been giving him in the past game from the tight end position. It is Barkley season, Slim. You are 100% correct. It's Barkley season. I'm incredibly high on Saquon, and it took Nick to talk me back into him. And now, I'm hoping that I can land him at the end of the first. It's the beginning of the second round. It's the first time in a very long time, pretty much since his rookie season, that we will be able to draft him or have the chance to draft him at the turn. Presents huge value, and he's not old. He's younger than a lot of guys being drafted ahead of him. Younger than Mixon, younger than Eckler, younger than Cook, younger than Nick Chubb if Nick Chubb is being drafted ahead of him, younger than Derrick Henry, I think he's younger than CMC. I'd have to check that one. CMC, I believe, is 26, and I think Saquon's 25. But there's no reason he should be going as low as he is. And we've already addressed that. D-Hop has made a class comment. That's just wrong, man. That's just wrong. But yo, New Jerusalem, how about Rondale Moore? Now, Nick, my co-host, who isn't here today, he is higher on Rondale Moore than I am. He is higher on Rondale Moore than I am. Not to say I'm not high on Rondale Moore. He was a guy that I was drafted. I drafted last year in rookie drafts. He was a guy that I was excited about last year. But last year kind of exposed a few of his deficiencies. His main deficiency being he's 5'7". And it takes a lot to get a 5'7" player to be productive. You really have to be Cole Beasley and be an insanely gifted slot receiver and have 100% of the confidence from your quarterback and the coaching staff. And really it took Cole Beasley a few years until he was a full-time player in an offense. And it took him being off the first team that drafted him in order for him to achieve that. Outside of that, I mean, who are some other sub 5'9" wide receivers that have really become fantasy assets in recent years? I can't name one, man. Sub 5'7" or sub 5'9". I'm talking like 5'8", 5'7" wide receivers. It's tough. So I think Rondale Moore is going to be shoehorned a little bit. I do think he has a chance to be the slot receiver with them moving on from Christian Kirk. Even when DeAndre Hopkins comes back, I think their three wide sets should look a lot like DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise Brown, and then Rondale Moore running from the slot. But again, then they have both Zach Ertz and Trey McBride playing around the same area of the field. So that should take away some upside from Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore is electric with the ball in his hands. And he should be schemed more balls thrown his way. And they could honestly even use him in some as a rusher. They could use him as a rusher in Arizona this year because they let go of Chase Edmonds. They didn't really replace him outside of bringing in Darrell Williams, who while he is he's a decent good running back, somebody that a lot of people on this channel, Alex, I know you're a huge fan of him. If you're in here, I'm a fan of him relative to where he's being drafted. but he's not exactly electric. He's dependable. Rondale Moore could be used in the run game and be electric, but he's never going to be a downfield threat because honestly, if you're that small of stature at 5'7", maybe 5'8" if you're being generous, it's hard for you to win downfield. Typically, larger receivers win downfield. So he's shoehorned into being used close to the line of scrimmage. Never going to be a guy that is heavily utilized in the red zone outside of screen passes and stuff like that, because typically in the red zone you see larger wide receivers be guys that are targeted as guys that can go up and get it, pluck the ball out the air over a defender, because the quarterbacks are dealing with smaller fields. So I like Rondale Moore, the player. I just don't know how in I am on him in fantasy, due to the fact that he is somebody that's going to have to be schemed the ball, and he's probably not going to be used in the area of the field that leads to most fantasy production. And outside of him being a slot receiver a la Cole Beasley, being targeted 8 to 10 times a game, I just don't see the fantasy relevance for him, because even Cole Beasley was a wide receiver 3 on the Bills. He wasn't some, he had wide receiver 2 games, he had wide receiver 1 games, a few in there, sprinkled in there. But at the end of the day, at the end of the season, he ended up being what amounted to a wide receiver 3. And that was best case scenario for him, and I believe he was 5'8", a little bit taller than Rondale Moore. Another thing about Rondale Moore, he has very small, short arms compared to other players at the position. Which means, if he had really long arms but was short, he'd have a little bit more of a catch radius. His catch radius is real small. I don't know exactly what that is. I can look that up for you right now. Rondale Moore. That information is on playerprofiler.com. Rondale Moore has a first percentile arm length. So literally, if you bring in 100 prospects around his size, 99% of them have a chance. 99 of them have a chance, or pretty much metrically are going to have longer arms than he is, plus he's 5'7". So I like the player. I think he'll end up being, when everything is said and done, a better college prospect than he ever will be in the NFL. And if he is ever utilized in the NFL, it'll be in a limited role, just based on the fact that he is short, doesn't have the biggest catch radius, and is relatively limited. But with the ball in his hands, he has a chance to be electric. He really does. So we'll see how it works out for Rondale Moore. I am just not the biggest fan of going after him in redraft or really in Dynasty. Nick is, if you want to hear some glowing comments about Rondale Moore, you're going to have to tune in and ask that question on a live stream when Nick is in the live stream. And Hunter, we've already been over my guys that I want to keep, but if you had to pay $85 for either Saquon Barkley or D-Hop, who are you taking? Saquon. Because Saquon's going to be healthy for the first 6 games and play in the first 6 games. If you're paying for a keeper, and you have a chance between taking a real good wide receiver who's only going to be playing 11 games, or one of the best running backs who is one of the best running back prospects of all time, who's playing a full 17-game season, to get your full money's worth, that $85 that you're paying, you want it to be Saquon. Plus, running back, it's a little bit of a premium. You put a little bit of a premium on running back because it's technically a little bit, it's harder to fill that position on your depth chart, because there are only, a handful, or a little bit more than a handful, maybe 2.5 handfuls of good running back ones in the league. And then you're dealing with guys that are in committees and all that. And even then, technical starters, there's only 32 starting running backs. Whereas wide receivers, there's 64. And you're also talking about guys like Rondale, who factor in behind, that 64 mark in terms of starters, because a lot of teams run 3 wide, 4 wide. So absolutely Saquon Barkley. New Jerusalem, what about DJ Chark? I think DJ Chark is being criminally underrated right now. Because, you're getting him at a discount because people are under the impression that as soon as Jameson Williams comes into the fold, DJ Chark becomes obsolete, and he is on a 1-year deal there, coming off an injury, and hasn't technically fired with any quarterback that he's played outside of Gardner Minshew when he was the only person on that team before Trevor Lawrence got there. But DJ Chark is one of the more electric wide receivers in the league, so he is technically a wide receiver who can win on, 3 catches. 2 catches. He can take it to the house. He has that speed. He has that length. He has that size. People often don't think of Jared Goff as a very good deep ball passer. But if you remember back in St. Louis, when he was in St. Louis, Jared Goff with playing for Sean McVay, he was playing with Brandon Cooks, and Brandon Cooks was perennially a top 16 wide receiver, and that was while he was playing with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. So he was technically the 3rd wide receiver there, Brandon Cooks. And Brandon Cooks is a lot better than DJ Chark, but they're going to be playing the same role, the field stretcher, the long bomb guy. And Brandon Cooks was always a top 16 wide receiver, even while Robert Woods was a top 20 wide receiver. And even while Cooper Kupp finished wide receiver 4 1 year and was a very good wide receiver in his own right in those other seasons. So people don't think about Jared Goff as a good deep ball passer. Excuse me. And he's not the greatest deep ball passer in the world, but he can get it done. And people are forgetting about DJ Chark. Let me look up his ADP real quick. Give me 1 sec here while I pull this up. So his ADP right now is in the 14th round. 153rd is where you can draft DJ Chark. There's a chance Jameson Williams doesn't play a lot in his first year. Even when Jameson Williams starts playing, it's Jameson Williams on one side, DJ Chark on the other side, Amon-Ra in the slot, TJ Hawkinson, and DeAndre Swift. And it has the chance to be on paper, one of the most electric wide just offenses in the league. Now I know it's being helmed by Goff, and he's pretty much a steward of the offense. He's not a quarterback that can really elevate an offense. The offense has to elevate him. But that being said, DJ Chark represents an extreme value right now, and based on where he's being drafted, he is a target for me. DJ Chark is a target for me. So I like DJ Chark. Slim, I hope we can be friends today. We'll see what happens when we mock, but I hope we can be friends today. Johnny Jones, thoughts on the Bears' new wide receiver? Are we talking about N'Keal Harry? Because I don't really feel like talking about N'Keal Harry. There's nothing much to say about N'Keal Harry. I think he's going to be their wide receiver 4. And, that's not very good considering the wide receivers who are ahead of him. I think Byron Pringle's going to start ahead of him. I think Velus Jones, with that 3rd-round draft capital, is going to start ahead of him. The Bears gave up a 7th-round pick for N'Keal Harry. Yes, he was a former 1st-round pick, but he hasn't fired. He hasn't done anything of note. In his best season 2 years ago, he had like 340 yards. On a team in his own right, or on a team for the Patriots who were lacking a true number 1 wide receiver. Their number 1 wide receiver that season was Jacoby Myers. You want to hear N'Keal Harry's RAS? I can pull that up for you. 8.45. And honestly, if you guys type in N'Keal Harry RAS, He had insane bench press scores, and he had an elite size grade, but his speed grade is just okay. His agility grade is just okay. And his explosion grade, while technically great, has more okay marks than not. He gets plus points for his vertical jump, but subpar scores in 3-cone drill and just okay scores in short shuttle and broad jump. So, you know, and 2 of those scores, the short shuttle and the 3-cone drill, were from his pro day, weren't even measured at the combine. So I'm not a huge fan of N'Keal Harry. I don't think he has that much more of a ceiling on the Bears than he did on the Patriots. Not somebody that I'm chasing. And honestly, if I was you, Johnny Jones, I would follow that same rubric. I would let somebody else deal with N'Keal Harry. And if you're dead set on getting somebody from that Bears team, make it a priority to get Darnell Mooney. Make it a priority to get Cole Kmet. And kind of leave it at that. Make it a priority maybe to get David Montgomery and leave it at that. That's how I feel about the Bears wide receiver. Iron, happy mock draft Thursday. You already know. Johnny Jones, Jamal Williams is a good RB to acquire. Is Jamal Williams a good RB to acquire if you have Swift? Are you talking about Dynasty? You talking about Dynasty? If you're talking about redraft, I like Nemo ladies. Am not the biggest fan of handcuffing my own backs unless it's Dynasty. If it's Dynasty, sure, because you're not going to have to pay very much to get Jamal Williams, a future third. Cool. I'm cool with doing that. But if it isn't Dynasty, I would rather diversify my assets. Okay, it is Dynasty. So, yeah, throw a third at it. See if you can get Jamal Williams to back up DeAndre Swift and secure that running back spot on the Lions. I think that's a fair move to make, especially if you're trying to compete. Yep. And Slim, that's you, Nemo ladies. Mock draft Thursday in effect. You already know that'll happen in probably a good 30 minutes while I get through the rest of this chat and talk a little bit about the 2 last players that I have listed here before we get into the mock draft part of the live stream. But it is mock day Thursday, so you already know. How does this correlate with Marlon Mack? We'll see where Marlon Mack gets drafted in the mock draft. Maybe you'll get him. Maybe I'll get him. Either way, I am going to be sniping you. So you're going to have to deal with it. And Jerusalem, let's go. New Jerusalem, let's go. Gainwell. You from New Jersey, bro? Are you from Israel? Where you from, bro? But let's go Gainwell. That brings me to my the wide receiver that I think is being slept on the most based on ADP right now, and that is Kenny Gainwell. His ADP right now is 157. You can get him at the top of the 14th round. He plays for a team that was number 1 in team run plays per game. The Eagles ran the most run plays per game in the NFL last year. And in terms of fantasy points per opportunity that the player in question got, Kenny Gainwell was 7th in the league in fantasy points per opportunity as a rookie. So, I mean, I wasn't expecting that when I went looking for that metric. 7th in the league in fantasy points per opportunity as a rookie. That's crazy. You don't usually see that from depth running backs. But he was also 6th in the league in yards per route run as a rookie. 7th in fantasy points per opportunity as a rookie. 6th in yards per route runner as a rookie. In games where he had more than 10 offensive opportunities, that's targets and rushes. He had one of those weeks in week 1. He was RB22 in week 1. He had one of those weeks in week 13. He was RB10 in week 13. And he had one of those weeks in week 18. He was RB11 in week 18. when he had more than 10 offensive opportunities. Just 10. And that's targets and rushes. He's been an RB2 once and an RB1 twice. There was one outlier week. I got to be real with you. There was one outlier week in there in week 8 when he received no targets and 13 rushes. And that's something like, a sub 5 point week. And that technically doesn't fit into my metric here. But I think that was an outlier week, because when are you expecting Kenny Gainwell not to get a target thrown his way and to get 13 rushes? I think that was an outlier week. I think the coaching staff learned from that, because they never used him in that fashion moving forward. And honestly, that was just a little bit of bad luck on Gainwell's part. But outside of that game, he has at least been a RB2 in every single game that he played where he had more than 10 opportunities offensively. And twice he was an RB1 weekly. Not only that, the team didn't resign Jordan Howard, who stole 24 red zone touches and 6 targets from the rest of the running backs in that offense in 2021. And we also, he was getting snubbed by the coaching staff, man. He really was. And to speak a little bit about the Philadelphia O-line. The Philadelphia O-line had a run blocking grade of 65.3 while blocking for Gainwell, which was 27th. But look at the other running backs in that offense. Miles Sanders had a run blocking grade ahead of him by the Philadelphia O-line of 94.2, which was first in the league. He received the best play from the O-line ahead of him while he was toting the rock last year. Boston Scott. Everybody forgets about Boston Scott. Boston Scott's still there. He had a run blocking grade ahead of him in terms of the O-line, how the O-line was performing, of 82.1, which was 7th in the league. And Jordan Howard had a run blocking grade in terms of the O-line playing ahead of him of 82.1, which was 6th. So last year, the Philadelphia O-line was uncharacteristically bad at blocking for Gainwell. That was an outlier, as they were top 7 in blocking for the rest of the 3 other running backs. And I think that played into the one outlier game where he had 13 rushes and no passes thrown in his direction and didn't finish as at least an RB2. In every other game, he did. Despite that bad run blocking grade, relatively bad run blocking grade that he received from his O-line while playing RB1 snaps, Gainwell still ranked 74th in stuffed run rate. He still had 4.3 yards per carry while having the 27th ranked O-line play in front of him on a per play basis. 4.3 is nothing to sneeze at. Imagine what would have happened if his role and Boston Scott's role was flip-flopped. And he received the 7th best O-line blocking grade ahead of him when he was toted the rock. Gainwell would have had a better yards per carry, and he would have ranked even better in stuffed run rate. He was the 74th worst running back at getting stuffed behind the line of scrimmage, if that makes sense. And teams have to respect A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert on every play this year that Gainwell will be playing behind center, behind the quarterback. Gainwell should eat on those short to intermediate targets in this offense, should have an improved run blocking grade ahead of him in terms of the O-line for his rushes this year. He has the trust of the coaching staff, and people kind of think of him as a satellite back. But Kenny Gainwell put up 21 bench reps at the combine before he was drafted, which was in the 60th percentile. To put that into perspective, Jonathan Taylor put up 17 in 2020, 4 less than Gainwell. A.J. Dillon put up 23 in 2020, 2 more than Gainwell. But, I mean, when you look at the stature of an A.J. Dillon versus the stature, or at least the thought process or the conception of the what a Gainwell would look like, what a Gainwell would put up, he only put up 2 less than A.J. Dillon, who is known to be a physical specimen, known to be a beast. Miles Sanders put up 20 bench reps in 2019, so technically coming out Gainwell was a stronger running back in terms of upper body strength than his running mate in Miles Sanders. David Montgomery, who has been a RB1 at some points in some stretches through his pro career, he only put up 15. So while it's not necessary for a running back to have great upper body strength, I mean, it's got to be a vote of confidence for him. You got to be thinking, all right, maybe Gainwell has a chance to be more than just a satellite back if he's putting up 21 bench reps at the combine, better than what Jonathan Taylor did coming out, almost as good as what A.J. Dillon did coming out, better than what Miles Sanders did coming out, better than what David Montgomery coming out did. It's not the end-all, be-all metric for running backs coming out, but it just goes to show you Gainwell has underrated strength. As a satellite back plus, I'd say he could shoulder more of a workload than your J.D. McKissicks and your Nyheim Hineses, which is a role that he gets kind of shoehorned into. Gainwell is J.D. McKissick and Nyheim Hines like. Not necessarily. He's stronger. He has more strength in his small frame than both of those guys. He can carry the load more than both of those guys. He could be more Austin Eckler in the future than Nyheim Hines when all is said and done, which speaks more about his future prospects than his 2022 prospects. And this is more of this started out as a redraft discussion, but it still is important to put the metrics through that lens when you're looking at a guy like Gainwell. And also, Sanders is in the last year of his deal. So if you are playing the long con with Gainwell in your dynasty leagues, Sanders is in the last year of his deal, has only played 12 games twice in each of the last 2 seasons. To your point, New Jerusalem, that Sanders will miss 4 games this year. I mean, based on recent history, we don't predict injury on this channel, but based on recent history, there's a good chance that happens. Miles Sanders has only had 12 rushing and passing touchdowns, rushing and receiving touchdowns total through 3 years, and didn't score a touchdown last season. Yes, he's due for some positive touchdown regression, but Miles Sanders isn't going to come out and score 10 touchdowns this year. It's just not going to happen. A lot of those are going to go Gainwell's way. Gainwell is stronger, has a better BMI than Miles Sanders, which typically means that you can handle more of a full-time workload than a running back with a lesser BMI. He's a better pass catcher than Sanders is. Miles Sanders' yards per route or reception was 6.1 last year, compared to Gainwell's as a rookie, which was 7.7. More than a full yard and a half better than Miles Sanders was on a per reception basis. Gainwell had 50 targets last year. Sanders had 34. Now, Sanders is being criminally underrated right now by the fantasy community too, considering you can get him, around pick 90. But Gainwell having an ADP of 157, a running back that you can get at the top of the 14th round, is borderline criminal. And if you're in Dynasty, I would be making offers for Gainwell right now. I traded for Gainwell. I traded a second in 2022 away for Gainwell last year, and people were looking at me funny. People didn't understand why I made that move. I think people will understand why I made that move. The guys that I was playing in that league with, I think they will eventually understand why I made that move. Gainwell, criminally underrated, one of my favorite running backs to target, has a much higher ceiling than we saw even in 2021, and I think he has the highest ceiling of any of these running backs if he's given the same playing field in terms of if everything is split evenly between the 3 players, the winner here will be Gainwell. I'm not saying that everything is going to be split evenly between the 3 players that are currently in this depth chart, but if they were, Gainwell technically, based on his profile, based on what he's already done in the NFL, should outshine all 3 of those guys. And we saw him outshine Miles Sanders last year. There was a reason why Miles Sanders didn't score a touchdown at all last year. There was a reason why Miles Sanders, while maybe a little bit more electric on the ground, was not an every game starter. Gainwell wasn't either, But when Gainwell was given more than 10 offensive opportunities, he performed for you. You were happy with it. And I think the smart money would be on the coaching staff recognizing that and making that happen more often than not in 2022. So Gainwell is one of my favorite running backs to target in this draft, is one of my favorite running backs to target in best ball, redraft, dynasty, keeper leagues, whatever. So, hope that answers your question, New Jerusalem, about Gainwell. Let's go Gainwell for sure. Gainwell to the moon. Absolutely. And yes, Nyheim Hines is a fantasy cheat code this year. So is Gainwell. A lot of the same things that I said about Gainwell apply to Hines. He will be playing with the best quarterback that he's played with since Andrew Luck. Right? Now, the only thing is there is a bona fide number one running back ahead of him who is good in the pass game, elite in the run game, and they're going to be trying to force feed Jonathan Taylor at all times. But you'd be hard-pressed to find a better satellite back in the league than Nyheim Hines. I think Gainwell might be one of those guys, but there's only one or two guys that I think have a better chance to be a better satellite back on a per-play basis, per-week basis than Nyheim Hines. I'm really high on Nyheim Hines, too. And Nemo, Nick told you that that I wouldn't be sniping you today. I'll try to be nice. And New Jerusalem, you from New York? All right. New York City or just the state? Sanders will absolutely... Sanders, not going to say that. Sanders has a good chance to get banged up at some point this year. And Johnny Jones, Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney, or Amon-Ra St. Brown this year and in Dynasty. You know, it's tough, man. It's tough because, Elijah Moore technically... Elijah Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown showed the most this year or last year on the touches they were given. But Elijah Moore now has to deal with a healthy Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson in the fold. And with Amon-Ra St. Brown, he had an insane finish to last year. But DeAndre Swift was hurt. TJ Hawkinson was hurt. They didn't have any other wide receivers. They were dealing with Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds out there at the wide receiver position, along with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's not going to be dealing with that lack of competition that we saw from him this year, starting week 1 in 2022. If I was to say anybody has the highest upside based on their profile, technically it's Toney. He's technically the most electric wide receiver of the three, in terms of what he was viewed at as a prospect coming out. But if I was to say which guy you should be betting your money on this year, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown can be what Robert Woods was for Jared Goff in St. Louis in Detroit this year. And Robert Woods was perennially a top 20 wide receiver while playing with Brandon Cooks, while playing 1 year with Sammy Watkins when Sammy Watkins was still good, while playing with Cooper Kupp on the other side of him, and Cooper Kupp was never what he was last year when Jared Goff was there. But there was 1 year where Cooper Kupp finished wide receiver 4. So he was still very good. And I think Amon-Ra can be a low-end wide receiver 2 this year. Now, Elijah Moore has a higher ceiling than that, but I have some concerns about Zach Wilson. And it has nothing to do with the reasons why he was in the news over the past week. But with Zach Wilson, I kind of got to see it to believe it. And there are a lot of other pieces now in that offense too, and Corey Davis, I believe, will operate as a pseudo number 1 there. They'll still be passing Elijah Moore's way, but then you also have to contend with the Garrett Wilson. So I think for me, the ranking for this year goes Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Moore, then Toney. But in Dynasty, In Dynasty, I like all three. In Dynasty, in a league where I am rebuilding, I have all three of those guys. And I'm holding every single one. And in that league, I have Garrett Wilson too. I'm not trading away at Elijah Moore just because I have the other wide receiver opposite him. I'm holding. I'm holding on to Tony. I'm holding on to Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're all really young wide receivers who, even if they don't fire in their first 3 years, first 4 years in the league, as soon as they go elsewhere and they're 26, 27 years old, they have a chance to really blossom elsewhere too. So I like all three of those guys in Dynasty. It's really hard for me to rank those guys. Really hard for me to rank those guys. But in Redraft, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney. JW, what's going on? How you doing, man? What's going on? And New Jerusalem, Monticello. I honestly don't know where that is, but I'm going to have to look it up. Either way, we're happy that you're here today. And yeah, that Lions defense could mean they're going to be passing a fair amount. Could mean they're going to be passing a fair amount. Now, the same could be said for that Giants defense. And honestly, the same could be said to a lesser extent about that Jets defense too. But Michael from America, what's going on, man? Where in America are you from? CMC worth a first-round pick, early first, late first, not even a first. He's definitely worth a first-round pick. He should be picked second in redraft leagues. Doesn't matter the format. He should be picked second in redraft leagues as long as it's one QB. As long as it's one QB. And honestly, there are reasons to believe that he should be picked first in redraft leagues. You said in Dynasty, no worries. In Dynasty, is he worth a first-round pick? He is only 26 years old. Yes, he's been banged up the past few seasons, but there are very few running backs who, even in a down year, can average 18.2 fantasy points per game. And he's technically playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with. Is he worth a first-round pick in Dynasty? That's hard to say. That's really hard to say. I think he's worth a late first, mid-first, late first, probably a late first. Is it 1 QB or is it 2 QB? That's the deciding factor. If it's 1 QB, he's definitely worth the late first. If it's 2 QB, honestly, I'd be waiting until, the second. I'd be prioritizing quarterback over him for sure. Elite quarterback over him for sure. But he should be, a top 6 back drafted because he represents insane upside when he is on the field. Not too many running backs have his kind of upside. And I am not straying away from CMC despite the injury history that we've seen from him lately. Because CMC, again, even just last year, despite getting 5 touchdowns vultured from him by his quarterback in Sam Darnold in the first 4 games, CMC still had 18.2 fantasy points a game. Now imagine if he would have gotten, half of those touchdowns on the goal line, half of those rushes on the goal line. He'd probably be above 20 fantasy points per game last year in a down year. In his best season, he was close to 30, I believe. Close to 30, so he still has insane upside, and he's not somebody I'm shying away from. Now, in Dynasty, if it is 2 QB, I would much rather go out and get my QB1, maybe even my QB2, depending on how you approach your drafts, than him. But as soon as I'm looking at running back, I'm letting Jonathan Taylor go. I'm letting a few other young running backs go, maybe your Najee Harris and stuff like that. But CMC shouldn't be drafted far after those guys. I'm not shying away from CMC. League-winning upside from that guy. Johnny Jones, which one do you like best in Dynasty? Like if you were rebuilding and could only get one. Of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Moore, and Toney. How old is Amon-Ra right now? It wouldn't be Toney. It would be a choice between Elijah Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is 22 years old right now, and Elijah Moore is 20. So there's only like a 4-month, 5-month gap between the two in terms of age. I think the ceiling is higher for Elijah Moore, because when Amon-Ra St. Brown was doing what he was doing, he was getting 11 to 12 targets a game. Elijah Moore was doing really good, putting up real good numbers on less targets. I think he's just a more explosive athlete than Amon-Ra St. Brown is, and because of that, I have to give the edge to Elijah Moore. But both of their teams technically drafted their wide receiver ones this year and made Elijah Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown the wide receiver twos in their own offense moving forward when everybody's healthy. So their roles should be pretty similar. But Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to have to be a compiler, whereas Elijah Moore has a little bit more upside athletically, ran a 4.35 at his pro day compared to Amon-Ra St. Brown running a 4.61. So just based off of athleticism there, I got to go Elijah Moore. And technically, Zach Wilson has more upside than what Jared Goff can give you. Now, Jared Goff should only be their QB for this year, and then they should be drafting another quarterback this next season very high, depending on how that works out. We could see a world in which Amon-Ra St. Brown does have a higher upside based on the QB play over in Elijah Moore. But as it stands right now, it would go Elijah Moore, then Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Tony for me if I was rebuilding in Dynasty. And Nemo ladies, no running back has more has CMC upside, but if you are close, yeah, I'd agree with that. But let's get to the last person I have to talk about here, and this one I'll keep short and sweet because I've talked about this guy ad nauseum all off season. We mentioned Kyler Murray earlier on. We mentioned DeAndre Hopkins earlier on. We mentioned Kenny Gainwell earlier on. And those are three guys at their current ADPs that I would be targeting. I wouldn't be afraid to draft. And honestly, with the Kyler Murray situations and the Kenny Gainwell situations, I'd be willing to draft those guys around ahead of where their ADP is currently on Underdog Fantasy. But the last position group I have here is tight end. If you've been listening to this YouTube channel, you already know where I'm going to be going with this. If you checked out the thumb before clicking on the thumb before joining us today, you already know where I'm going with this. It's Robert Tonyan, the tight end 1 for Aaron Rodgers. In 2020, Robert Tonyan was the tight end 3 behind 11 touchdowns that year. In 2020, he was 24th in targets, number 1 in true catch rate, number 2 in catchable target rate, because Aaron Rodgers is just one of the best, most accurate passers in the league, and that was an MVP season for him. And he was 24th in targets, but finished as the tight end 3 behind, again, 11 touchdowns. He was number 1 in target separation in 2020. He was insanely efficient with the targets that he got. He was number 5 in contested catch rate, so he was getting target separation at an elite rate, better than Kelsey that year, better than Waller that year. He was number 3 in the league, again, in total fantasy points per game. And number 5, the 5th best tight end in contested catch rate, which means he isn't just getting those open targets and he was getting it done while the targets were contested in the end zone, most importantly. And that's how he got to 11 touchdowns that year. He was the number 1 tight end in fantasy points per target. And I believe that the targets will only go up in 2022 because Green Bay lost a wide receiver in Devontae Adams, who has had 28 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. So those touchdown numbers, those red zone targets have to go somewhere. I think a lot of them are going to be shoveled to Robert Tonyan in the red zone for sure. If you go after Robert Tonyan, it allows you to get a tight end with top 3 upside in the teens. He's being drafted at the top of the 13th round right now by Underdog ADP. His current ADP is 147.1, and in the top of the 13th round, you can get a tight end with the top 3 ceiling. And it's really not hard for me to see a world in which Robert Tonyan doesn't at least get top 6 numbers this year, because the offense is going to need him. Not only do they not have Davante Adams this year, who had 28 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons and was a huge reason why Aaron Rodgers was an MVP candidate and an MVP winner over the last 2 years. Their number 1 wide receiver right now is either Christian Watson or Allen Lazard, both of which, one's a rookie. One is going to be his 5th year in the league, and he's never been relied upon that much in the NFL. Then they got Sammy Watkins. They got Amari Rodgers. Yeah, Nemo. Davante accounted for a 36% red zone target share. Big Bob Tonyan is going to get a lot of that red zone target share thrown in his direction. And you can get him right now in the 13th round. I know a lot of the news on him hasn't been great because people are worried. There has been rumors that he's not ready to play yet. There are rumors that he might not be ready to play by week 1, still recovering from the injury that he suffered around week 9, week 10 last year. But I think that's just because the Packers don't share that information with the world. They kind of let the world do their thing. They keep it all in-house. And then come week 1, I think there's a really good chance that Robert Tonyan is out there for the Packers. And even if you have to wait a few weeks for him, I really think he has league-winning upside. Not league-winning upside, but just insane touchdown upside from the tight end position relative to where he's being drafted. So if you can get Kyler Murray in the 5th round, if you can get DeAndre Hopkins in the 7th round, if you can get Robert Tonyan in the 13th round and Kenny Gainwell in the 14th round, I really think you're doing something right and you will be happy with your team. Because come week 7, when DeAndre Hopkins is healthy, you'll have a quarterback with top 1 upside. In 2020, he was the QB1 through weeks 1 to week 16, and then in week 17, Josh Allen overtook him in a game where the majority of us weren't playing fantasy football anyway. We had already won our championships by then. For the fantasy season, Kyler Murray was the QB1 in 2020. You can get his future wide receiver 1, current wide receiver 1, depending on how you look at it, by week 7 in the 7th round in DeAndre Hopkins. You can get a tight end that has top 3 upside and has shown top 3 upside in the NFL, and really this year has upside for more considering the lack of Davante Adams in the offense, the lack of a true number 1 in the offense. You can get him in the 13th round, and you can get Kenny Gainwell, who is being criminally underrated as a running back, in the 14th round. Those are guys that I am targeting. I advocate that you target them too. I'm going to be targeting them, all those guys in the mock that we do today. Y'all better not snipe me. But if y'all do, I guess I'll understand it, because honestly, it's the smart thing to do. But with that being said, those are the 4 guys that I am targeting, 1 guy at each position, based off of where they're being drafted. So there you have it. There you have it. Now, it's what y'all have been waiting for. It is the time that y'all have been waiting for. Now is the time that we can start mock drafting. So let's switch up the screen right now. There you go. We have a new mock draft screen for y'all. It was a little bit janky in past live streams because we were shoehorning it into what we were, the screen that we were dealing with. Now we don't have to deal with that. And it will be like this moving forward. Even when Nick comes back, we have a little bit of a revamped setup. But let me throw this mock draft link in the chat. I'll pin it too so y'all can come and join us for this mock draft. Slim, don't worry. I'm staying away from your draft pick. I'm staying away from your draft slot. Don't come anywhere near me. Don't be picking draft slot 11. I'll kick you out. But join in. We're doing it on Sleeper like we always do. If you guys are members of the Discord channel, which is the second link in the description of this video. If you're not, you can join that for free. I'm going to be putting that. The Sleeper link is in there now, so you can go to the Discord, copy the link, throw it in your browser, join us for the mock draft. It is 1 QB, half PPR, redraft. So it's not a dynasty mock. It's not a 2 QB mock like we've been doing in the recent past with our members only streams. This is a 1 quarterback, 12 team, half PPR format snake draft. And we're doing it live with y'all. So everybody that's in the chat right now, if y'all got Sleeper, join the stream. Draft with us. Slim, you already in here. I knew you were going to do that, man. You had to pick that 11 spot. I know you're going to be sniping me all day. But it is what it is. It's what I got to deal with. It'll give me... What's going on, Nene? It'll give me a little bit of a heads up. A little bit of a dry run in terms of the league that we're going to be playing in this with y'all, because you are a member. And to y'all, all you guys who aren't members, they're one of the perks of being a member of this YouTube channel is that you get to play in leagues with us. Another perk is that you get access to the members only portion of our Discord channel. Another perk is that you get scheduled one-on-ones with both me and Nick, so we can go over your fantasy teams, whether that's dynasty, in the off season, whenever you want. In season, we can go over your redraft leagues, your redraft team, and we can kind of give you a roadmap for what you should be doing. So you get our one-on-one undivided attention. And that has been valuable for a few of our members. We offer that to our members for free, just for being members. You also get a members only live stream on Wednesdays, 6 p.m. EST. So you get one more live stream a week with y'all if you guys are a member. And if you want to become a member, it is the first link in our description of all of our videos that we've done over the past year, I would say. Half a year. Johnny Jones, we drafted for PPR. No, it is half PPR. This is a 12-team, half PPR, 1 QB, snake draft, redraft. So we got WizKid in here. We got, who's that? Prosperous in here. We got Iron. Good to see you, Iron. We got Iron in here, and we got Nemo Trees, a.k.a. Slim. Gonna be picking on me all day, so we'll wait until we'll give y'all another 4 minutes to come in. We'll wait until 7:18 EST, and then we'll press go on this mock, and we'll be off to the races. And Nene, what's a redraft? It's non-dynasty. It's season-long. So this is a season-long league. So we're only drafting in this draft for 2022. So draft if you were drafting a 1-year team this year. Don't draft if with the thought process that this is dynasty. This is not a dynasty draft. Mock draft. Hey, New Jerusalem in the house. What's going on, Prosperous? Yeah, we don't normally do mock drafts in the public live streams. It might be something that we do with a little bit more regularity. Usually we have been reserving it for our members only streams in the past. But with Nick not here, honestly, needed to fill some air. And it was requested yesterday that we do a few more mocks today because we only did one yesterday. So we're bringing you at least one mock today. I'm not committing to 2 or 3 mocks right now. It really depends how fast this mock goes. But mock draft Thursday, y'all. Mock draft Thursday. So let's we got another 2 minutes. If anybody is in the chat and they want me to hold off on pressing the go button here and they're having troubles logging in, their app is updating, whatever it may be, we'll wait a few extra minutes if you give us the heads up. But we are pressing that go button as it stands right now in T-minus 2 minutes. And the link to join this mock draft is pinned right now on the YouTube chat. So while we're waiting, do we have any more questions? Do we have any more questions about players? Anthony Garcia, talk about MVS? Absolutely. MVS has a chance to be, I never thought I'd say this, he has a chance to be Pat Mahomes' wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 this year. He was picked up in the offseason, coming over from the Packers, was never a full-time player for the Packers, and was never relied upon to be anything more than a deep threat / field stretcher option for the Packers for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers never used him as a bona fide target on a play-to-play basis. He was really kind of underutilized on the Packers. I got to be real. But the Chiefs saw fit to give him a 3-year contract, to pay him more on a per-year basis than former 1,400-yard receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, who they also picked up. And, I mean, his cap hit for his first season at age 28 is only about just under $5 million. Next year, it's $11 million, and the year after that, it's $14 million. They gave him a sizable contract, a 3-year, $30 million contract, and he is the owner of the largest contract in terms of wide receivers currently on the Chiefs right now. Y'all got me on this MVS tangent, so we're just gonna wait a little bit before we press go on the live stream. But if you look, outside of Sky Moore, who was just drafted and obviously has 4 years on his contract, nobody is set to be a more tenured wide receiver in this offense than Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So if the Juju Smith-Schuster experiment, who was only picked up for $2.89 million, a 1-year contract, if MVS doesn't fire, if Mecole Hardman doesn't pick it up this year in the last year of his deal, then it really could be, moving into next season, Sky Moore and MVS in this offense, playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the best quarterback in the league. He might be, depending on who you ask. He's not my best top quarterback in the league. I mean, I'm a Bills fan. I got to give that to Allen. And honestly, I might want to have Herbert over Mahomes, despite what Mahomes has done from over the past few seasons. This is more of a fantasy conversation than a true NFL on-the-field conversation. But MVS could be the number 1, number 2 wide receiver on this team over the next few seasons. And that's crazy to say. I never thought I'd say that. So with that in mind, I mean, he is a very solid sleeper prospect at 28 years old, going into the 2022 season and beyond, as he will be relied upon to stretch the field for the Chiefs, a role that was previously held by Tyreek Hill. Juju Smith-Schuster stretching the field is not part of his game. Sky Moore, it might be, but Sky Moore is a rookie, and he was banged up in minicamp and OTAs, didn't play in minicamp and OTAs, and could struggle to see the field right away as a rookie. So if we're looking at that depth chart, MVS might be the winner for 2022 and could be the winner on 2023 and beyond. And Anthony Garcia, on Sleeper, how do you join? If you're not on the Discord, the link is in the Discord in the general tab. If you're not on the Discord, the link is also pinned to this live stream. I threw the link back in the chat too. So we'll wait a little bit longer. Sorry to keep everybody else waiting, but we want to get as many of the listeners in on this mock draft as we can, so that you can draft MVS before I get my hands on them in the mock draft, and we can see how it goes. But definitely, we would love to have you in the mock draft, Anthony. So if you need help getting the link, and what we're throwing out on the chat here for YouTube or Discord isn't working for you, we'll try to figure out another way to get you into the live stream or into the mock draft. And Nene, what position are you gonna draft? At what spot I'm at? I'm at 12. And historically, at the 12th spot, I go after wide receiver first. And Nemo Lady Slim, does either KJ Hamler or KJ Osborne take a step forward this year? Honestly, I think both of them are going to take a step forward this year. I would rather put my money on KJ Osborne, but Nick has been a huge fan of KJ Hamler over the last few seasons. I believe he's a former second-round pick, now playing with the best quarterback of his career. The only issue with Hamler is Cortland Sutton's ahead of him, Jerry Jeudy is ahead of him, Tim Patrick's ahead of him, probably Alberto is ahead of him, and I wouldn't be surprised if one or both of the running backs are ahead of him on a per-play basis in the pecking order in terms of receiving and passing. So Hamler, he is one of those wide receivers who can get it done for your fantasy team on a week-to-week basis on 1 to 2 plays in a game. But I'm going to put my money on Osborne just because Osborne only really has to contend with Justin Jefferson, a 32-year-old Adam Thielen, and an Irv Smith coming off of a torn meniscus. So because of that, he should slide in automatically as the wide receiver 3 on an underrated Vikings team. So I'd put my money, if I had to bet on a KJ, I'd put it on Osborne. But Hamler technically does have some upside too, and he's a guy that you can pick up with your last pick in pretty much any draft. And Nene, preach. Yeah, man, MVS is a sleeper this year. MVS is a sleeper. All right, are we just about ready to go with the draft? Everybody's stacking up next to me, man. All right. WizKid at 1-9, Iron at 110, Nemo, y'all already know, at 111, and me at 12. And we got New Jerusalem over at 1-6. We will wait for you, Anthony Garcia. And if you have any issues, I don't know where else we can put the link. But you should be able to join with that link that we have in the chat. It's the pinned message. It is the last message in the chat too, and it's also on the Discord. Johnny Jones, you're the whiz, by the way. All right, glad to have you in here. And yeah, Anthony Garcia, you showed up in the Discord. Awesome. So it's the link right above where you posted. I'll post it one more time. Yeah, I just sent you the link on Discord, so you should have it. You should have it. And as soon as you're in here, I'm going to hit the button. Just a reminder to everybody before we start, it is 1 QB, half PPR, 12-team redraft. So keep that in mind when you're drafting. I don't want y'all making any mistakes, thinking it's 2 QB. All right, man. Is that you, Uziel? Is that you? Is that you, Anthony? Let me know in the chat so I can press go on this mock. Start it off. Nemo the back half got too crowded. Yeah, I see you. If I wasn't so tied to that 112 pick, I'd probably move around too. But Anthony, is that you? Are you UZL1? All right, awesome. You're in here. All right, we're gonna start this, and I'm gonna turn off that really annoying notification. All right, team 1 auto pick. The bot picked CMC. UZL picking Derrick Henry. All right, Derrick Henry going before Jonathan Taylor. This is crazy. Leaving that Jonathan Taylor pick to Nemo Trees, my rival. It's not too often you see Derrick Henry go ahead of Jonathan Taylor in a 2022 redraft draft. Hey, Nemo, you went. Damn, you leaving Jonathan Taylor for the bots? I don't hate going Justin Jefferson, but you leaving Jonathan Taylor for the bots. Love to see you getting Cooper Kupp. Love to see you getting Cooper Kupp, Prosperous. Jamar Chase falling to iron. Oh, man, that's a good start. I know you picked up Jamar Chase yesterday, too. But I believe you got him at the turn in the second round, 2-1. Going DeAndre Swift. All right. If you know me, you know who I'm going to go with here. I'm going to go Stephon Diggs. And you know what? I was thinking about it. Maybe going Kelsey because he gives you such a boost at the tight end position. But we talk so much about Rob Tonyan that I'm going to stay away from these top tight ends because I think I can get value later on. If you've been mocking with me, you already know. So today we talked about Saquon. Got a question about Saquon, so I think I got to go Saquon. Who you going to pick, Johnny? Travis Kelce. There you go. There you go. Great 1-2 punch with DeAndre Swift and Travis Kelce. Which way you going, Iron? What time is it there, Iron? Is it like 3 a.m.? 3 in the morning? Much respect for you joining us on all of our live streams over where you're at, man. I know it's not easy staying up that late, so much respect. No beef today, Nemo. All right, I appreciate it. We'll see if that continues all the way through the end of the mock. We seem to say that when we start, and then we start getting mad, even if we're sniping each other from a few picks away. So we'll see. Mini run on tight end. Love that pick of Leonard Fournette. Love that pick of Leonard Fournette, Prosperous. That's a great pick. Leonard Fournette should not be going behind Nick Chubb. He should get a ton of work this year. And honestly, if you're looking for the handcuff, Usually not something that I do in redraft, but you can get Rachaad White pretty late right now by ADP. Slim going Justin Jefferson and Javonte Williams. All right. High upside guys. Both very high upside guys. Love getting the Justin Jefferson. I don't know if I would have had the balls to go Justin Jefferson over Jonathan Taylor, though, especially at 3. But there are definitely worse players to pick at that spot, so I don't hate that at all. Anthony going RB deep, RB heavy. Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones, both very high upside running backs. Hopefully both of them can stay healthy as they're both getting up there in age. But from a fantasy points per game perspective, you'd be hard-pressed to find better running backs. You really would. Iron is 130, but you can sleep tomorrow. All right, man, I like that energy. James Conner, oh man, look at you going running back with the first 3 picks. That's not fair, man. You got a great running back core. Tripling down. Putting the pressure on everybody else to go running back. Look at Nemo sniping me from afar with Mike Evans. That's not fair. That's not fair. You knew I was hoping he would slip to me, man. I see what you did. I see what you did. Antonio Gibson going this early. I'm not going to say that's a reach because he was the running back 10 last year in fantasy points per game and just an overall finish, I believe. But, man, he was the RB10 in fantasy finish and half PPR, not by points per game. But I was not expecting him to go that early. But that's not a bad pick at all, considering how far into the draft you drafted, which running backs you drafted him behind. A lot of those running backs he finished ahead of last year in a injury-riddled season, no less. So don't hate that at all. Just a surprise, man. I thought I was going to be able to get him maybe in the 5th round. Not with these savvy listeners, not with these savvy drafters. Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen, Mark Andrews. Look at you, Wiz Kid. Look at you, Johnny, sniping me with Michael Pittman too. You're turning into the new Slim. Man, that puts me in a little bit of a bind. Cause that's who I was hoping would fall to me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit disappointed. More than a little bit disappointed. I'm very disappointed. Oh man. Well, you gotta roll with the punches. T. Higgins. And this is tough. But I think going Saquon and Elliott and Stephon Diggs and T. Higgins is a solid start. Not the players I wanted, because Wiz Kid sniped me on Michael Pittman. Nemo sniped me on Mike Evans. But we take the players that fall to us, right? Yeah, Nick was right, Nemo. Nick was right that I wasn't gonna snipe you today. You're sniping me. 7 picks. What is that? 9 picks away from me. That's not fair. That's not playing fair. What, you mad, bro? You mad, bro? You thought Zeke was gonna fall to you? You mad, bro? Justin Herbert. Solid value. Solid value. Was the QB2 last year in fantasy points per game. Getting him behind Mahomes, I call that a win. I call that a win in redraft. So I like the variance at the positions. DeAndre Swift, Travis Kelce, Michael Pittman, Justin Herbert. Don't be upset, Slim. You snipe me, I snipe you. That's how it works. That's how it works. That's how it works. Don't hate the player, man. Honestly, Iron, it was a choice between Zeke and Breece Hall. So, solid pick there. If it wasn't for Zeke, if Zeke would have gone and Michael Pittman would have gone, I'd be looking at Breece. I would have been looking at Breece. Prosperous Terry McLaurin's a little bit of a conundrum for me, but most of that has to do with Carson Wentz, not the player that Terry McLaurin is. He should be a wide receiver firmly in his prime at age 27, the age apex for wide receivers, so I don't hate that pick at all. Nemo going DJ Moore. Look at you getting value everywhere, man. He wasn't technically a target for me, but look at that. Look at that 3 wide receiver set that you're rolling with. And look at Ants running backs and then taking one of the best, if not the best, rushing quarterback in the league, running upside for days in that lineup. I like it. I like it. Mike Williams, now you're sniping me too, bro? Man. Y'all really ain't playing fair. Y'all really ain't playing fair. Nemo starting that beef like always, but now Anthony's starting that beef now too. And WizKid starting that beef now too. Oh, man. How dare you take Michael Pittman away from me? How dare you take Mike Williams away from me? How dare you take Kyler Murray away from me, Nemo? Oh, man. Oh, you really trying to start something. You're really trying to start something. You're not playing fair. I see how it is. I see how it is. Sniping you from 9 picks away. I see how it is. Prosperous taking Cortland Sutton. Great pick there. Team 7, a bot taking Marquise Brown. All right. But Cortland Sutton, I was hoping I would be able to get him on the come around, but I like Cortland Sutton a lot. A lot this year. I think he will be the alpha wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. So that is a great pick in the 5th round. Very solid pick. Which way you going, Iron? If you snipe me, I will kill you. No, I won't. I'm playing. But if you snipe me, I'm gonna be preying on the downfall. A loss for the Vienna Vikings. I have a feeling you're gonna do it though. All right. You're not on my bad side yet, Iron. Nemo already took away Kyler Murray, so going with Joey Burrow, getting that T. Higgins Joey Burrow stack. I like that. And hey, if you leave me Brandon Cooks, perennial top 16 wide receiver Brandon Cooks. He has only had 1 season where he wasn't a top 16 wide receiver, and he had 3 concussions in that year in a 3-week span. I'll forgive him that. But outside of that year, he's been a perennial high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1, so I'll take it. If Allen Robinson was there, I probably would have taken Allen Robinson. So Iron, you're sniping me there too, but it's all right. You left me Joe Burrow, so I ain't mad. I ain't mad. It's always a war with Nemo. Always a war with Nemo. And yeah, yo, Iron, it was between Burrow and him and Allen Robinson. Yeah, I figured it was because you had Jamar Chase. I was worried you were going to take Joe Burrow to complete the stack, but I appreciate you leaving him to me. Getting Russell Wilson as a consolation prize is not a bad look, for sure. Prosperous, I like that A.J. Dillon pick. Who you sniping me on now, Nemo? Who you sniping me on now, Slim? Who's on my bad side? You already know who's on my bad side. Look at you taking DeAndre Hopkins, getting Kyler Murray, get that stack. You're not playing fair. You got my cheat code, and look at Anthony picking up one of my favorite wide receivers in Gabe Davis. You know I'm a Bills fan. Why you got to do that to me? You already got Mike Williams. Why are you sniping me twice, man? From 10 picks away. None of y'all playing fair. I hate when I'm going to have to draft in a real league with you guys. I'm going to end up with nobody I like. I'm going to end up with a team that I hate because y'all are going to snipe me on every single player that I like. That's the downside of mock drafting with you guys so much and talking through my thought process with you guys so much. Y'all know which players I like. So when it comes to draft time, it's going to be Snipe City. Anthony, if you pick one more of my guys, I will want all that smoke. Damn, look at the value you got at wide receiver after going running back, quarterback. Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, and Juju Smith-Schuster. That's insane value. I have to say, though, if I was you, I might have gone looking for a Rashad Bateman. I know this is going to come to bite me in the butt because Rashad Bateman is probably going to be picked by Nemo now, but I think I would have gone Rashad Bateman there to complete the stack with Lamar Jackson. Just my thoughts. There's nothing wrong with picking Juju there, though. I swear Nemo's just plotting on my downfall. Nemo's just searching for players that I like. Gotta think ahead a little bit and figure out who's gonna be on the board for me. I knew it, bro. Rashad Bateman. I knew it. You don't even need another wide receiver. Rashad Bateman's going to be on your... I guess he's going to be a starter for you if this was a true league because DeAndre Hopkins would be on your bench for the first 6. But that ain't fair. That ain't fair. Which way you going, Iron? If one of y'all snipe me, I'm gonna be real mad. Oh man, Iron going Tony Pollard, taking my taking my handcuff away, my handcuff plus. See what it is. And WizKid sniped me. Those are the two players I was looking at, bro. Tony Pollard. I was looking at Darnell Mooney first. Darnell Mooney was number one for me there, but then Tony Pollard was gonna be my fallback. Y'all took both of them. Not fair. Kind of hate life right now. Kinda hate life right now. Nobody's popping out of me on the board here. Nobody's really staring me in the face, and oh man, I hate this team that I gotta be. Whatever. It's a mock. I'll deal. Devin Singletary gone. A bot took him. I'm a little butthurt. I'm not gonna lie. Oh man, I'm a little butthurt. But hey, gotta deal with what you gotta deal with, right? People sniping me all over the place. Elijah Moore, hey man, I like that wide receiver core. Having Chris Godwin as the elder statesman of your wide receiver core at 26 years old, I mean, I think Darnell Mooney's 24. Elijah Moore, we already been over it, 22. Michael Pittman, I think he's 24 too. You got a young wide receiver core. Justin Herbert can't do much better than Justin Herbert. Travis Kelce, the TE1 by pretty much anybody's metric, and DeAndre Swift and Kareem Hunt. Not the biggest fan of Kareem Hunt because I do think he takes it even further of a step back playing with Jacoby Brissett in this year. But there are worse running backs to have for sure. Taking Rashad Penny there. I was kind of hoping Rashad Penny would be there for me on the way back. But that was wishful thinking. Obviously, Iron, you had to snipe me there too. I like this squad you put together. Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Russell Wilson, Mark Andrews, Breece Hall, Tony Pollard, Rashad Penny. Got some upside and a lot of on pretty much every position group. Prosperous. I like this draft for you too. You got the Leonard Fournette, Tom Brady stack. Got Dalton Schultz, who was the tight end. I believe the tight end 3 the last year. AJ Dillon got more upside than he showed last year. Antonio Gibson, underrated pick there based on where you got him. Leonard Fournette, value based on where you got him. Cooper Kupp, can't do much better at the wide receiver position than Cooper Kupp. Cortland Sutton. Terry McLaurin, upside for days. I know Nemo is going to snipe me twice before it comes back to my pick. I'm not going to give him any praise. Look at you drafting Chris Olave, man. You just pissing me off. As a depth receiver. I swear you're doing this just to spite me, man. I see how it is. I see how it is. I see how it is. Allen Lazard, great pickup, man. Look at that pickup, Allen Lazard in the 8th round. Dawson Knox, 9th round. Value, man. I'ma hate on whoever Nemo picks here. I'ma hate on whoever Slim picks here. Doesn't matter if I love the player. And yeah, Johnny Jones, backup QB, needs to dump off. But, I don't know, man. But I've never been the biggest Kareem Hunt fan in the first place. So don't let my opinion, scare you away from Kareem Hunt. I was never the biggest fan of him after he left KC. He always outperformed based on where I thought he was ranked every year. And he should have a few more years of that. And depending on what happens with this Deshaun Watson news, he could come back sooner than later. And you could be dealing with, you could have a very good RB2 by the time that happens. Absolutely. Slim, you about to piss me off. I know you. I know what you're doing. I know what you're cooking up over there, man. You drafting a Bills player just to piss me off. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. I see how it is. I'll roll with the punches on this one. Taking 2 quarterbacks, Prosperous. Christian Kirk, Iron, I knew you were going to snipe me. I knew he wasn't going to fall to me, man. Top 10 wide receiver based on what he's getting paid. I knew you were going to snipe me, man. Playing with Trevor Lawrence. Nemo, no you don't. Don't play with me, man. Don't play with me, man. Hey, if you're going to leave me Russell Gage, I'll take it. Then if I don't do it, Slim's just gonna take him away from me. I gotta overdraft my guys at this point. Gotta do it. Gotta overdraft my guys because Slim is just gonna steal my players away from me. Iron is just gonna steal my players away from me. Even Anthony Garcia gonna steal my players away from me. I gotta pick a guy 4 rounds ahead of his ADP and underdog just to get my guys, man. Life ain't fair. What, you mad I got Melvin Gordon? Oh, man. Yo, Nemo, I gotta play defense. I gotta play defense against all y'all, man. I gotta overdraft my guys 4 rounds ahead of where they're being drafted just to keep them on my squad. Cause none of y'all play fair. You snipe Mike Evans from me. You snipe Kyler Murray from me. You snipe DeAndre Hopkins, get that nice stack for moving into the playoff push. You snipe Rashad Bateman on me. You snipe Chris Olave on me. Think I'm gonna let you do that with Gainwell? Look at Anthony, too. Sniping James Conner on me. Sniping Mike Williams on me. Sniping Gabe Davis on me. Sniping Alan Lazard on me. It's not fair. Prosperous. Sniping Cortland Sutton on me. Sniping Antonio Gibson on me. Iron. sniping Allen Robinson on me, sniping Tony Pollard on me, sniping Rashad Penny on me, sniping Christian Kirk on me, grabbing Rashad White. I see what you just did. Johnny Jones sniping Michael Pittman on me, going after starting the down the QB rabbit hole, going Justin Herbert, sniping Darnell Mooney on me. I see it. See what y'all doing. Jarvis Landry, very savvy pick. Very savvy pick, my friend. Very savvy pick. Look at that wide receiver core. Mike Williams, Gabriel Davis, Juju Smith-Schuster, Allen Lazard, and then taking the safe pick in Jarvis Landry to back everybody up. With those three running backs and that quarterback and a tight end with as much touchdown upside as anybody in the league, not named Travis Kelce, not named Mark Andrews. I see you. Getting the Falcons starter in the 11th round. I don't care what Slim does. Whatever Slim does, I might hate on it. I can't hate on that. Tyler Boyd, good pick. Good pick. That Ramondre Stevenson pick, Prosperous. Underrated pick right there. Underrated pick right there. You got low-key a very nice running back core. Got the 1-2 punch at quarterback, whoever works on a week-to-week basis. Got last year's tight end 3. You got Cooper Kupp, who just had almost 2,000 yards receiving in 18 games. I know Iron is going to snipe me here. What is Iron going to do? Rondale Moore. All right. I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it. Dameon Pierce. Hey, man, we were just talking about the guy that I'm going to pick before this live stream jumped off. Do I go MVS here? I mean, it's a dart throw, but you know what? And if I don't do this, Slim is just going to snipe me. See, I got to play defense 2 rounds ahead of where I think people should be drafted because Slim is going to snipe me. Anthony's going to snipe me. Johnny Jones is going to snipe me. Iron's going to snipe me. Prosperous might snipe me. Hey, man. Hey. You win some, you lose some. Got to play defense against y'all. I gotta play defense against y'all. If y'all don't play fair, I don't play fair. Y'all don't play fair, I don't play fair. I gotta start playing 3D chess with y'all. Y'all know what my moves are gonna be based on ADP. Y'all know this. Y'all been drafted with me too often. I gotta start playing, thinking 2 steps ahead, which means drafting rounds 2 steps ahead of where they should be drafted. Two rounds ahead of where they should be drafted, man. Mo Alley. Underrated pick. You already know. Big fan of Mo Alley Cox this year. Take them back-to-back quarter tight ends. Look at team one. I like that Alberto this late, but Nick is a bigger fan of Curtis Samuel than I am, especially this year, considering he's going to be the wide receiver 3 for Carson Wentz. Excuse me, but Nick's a huge fan of Curtis Samuel. So solid pickup there by Nick's analysis. He ain't here, but I'll speak for him. Echo his sentiments. Iron, are we live streaming when we draft for the league? I mean, it'll probably be a members only live stream. Yeah, it will probably be a members only live stream, but we'll live stream the draft. Yeah. Jelani Woods, man, I hate you. You just not that I was trying to pick him up, but I know what you doing, Slim. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Bryan Edwards, upside pick there. I do think there were guys on the board with a little bit more upside than Bryan Edwards, but technically untapped upside there for sure. All right. Do I have to diversify my bonds at running back, considering I only have 4? Or do I pick 2 wide receivers that I really like that are still on the board? You know what? Devontae Parker, I don't love the guy, but he's technically the wide receiver 1 in his offense. It's pretty much unheard of to get a wide receiver 1 in their own offense at pick 13, at the end of 13, the 13-14 turn. And we spoke about this guy yesterday when we were going our rookie redraft re-rank. Jalen Tolbert is going to be starting the first. He's the rookie version of Russell Gage. He's going to be starting the first 6 to 8 games with Gallup coming back from an injury. So he should be starting for the Dallas Cowboys for Dak Prescott for the first 6 to 8 games. Has a chance to just solidify that role, lock that role down, and be one of the outside wide receivers, and they could move CeeDee Lamb into the slot. That's what's been rumored, is they want CeeDee Lamb in the slot, playing the big slot, and then Michael Gallup and Jalen Tolbert on the outside in 3 wide sets. So, and again, getting Devontae Parker. Not a huge fan of Devontae Parker, but he technically is, or has the chance to be, if it's not Jacoby Myers, he has a chance to be Mac Jones's new number 1 wide receiver. So, there you go. Iron. Looks like I sniped you and Slim. Deal with it. Upside pick in Paris Campbell. I like that pick. Upside pick in Irv Smith. I like that pick too. Probably won't need him with Travis Kelce, but upside pick for sure. I low-key really like Prosperous's wide receivers there. Cooper Kupp, nothing to hate there. Nothing to subtract in terms of points there. Terry McLaurin, love that pick. Cortland Sutton, love that pick. Don't exactly love the Kadarius Toney pick, but going Jacoby Myers. Honestly, Myers should probably start ahead of Kadarius Toney on a week-to-week basis until Kadarius Toney actually shows us more than just raw potential. But I like both of those picks because Kadarius Toney shows a ton of upside. He just needs to be more reliable, and it might help if he had a better quarterback. But I like Kadarius Toney, the talent. He just needs to have his head on straight and perform when given the opportunity. So upside pick there. Really like that Ramondre Stevenson pick. Based on the running backs that were going ahead of him. Ramondre Stevenson being drafted behind Isaiah Spiller, I think is very solid. Josh Palmer, love that pick too. Three wide sets in for Justin Herbert for sure. He'll be out there. Do I know Marcel Dabo? No, I don't. Iron. I never heard of Marcel Dabo. Let me Google this dude. "22 years old. From, I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, Reutlingen, Germany. And the mock is over. Nemo going Gus Edwards, great pick. Anthony Garcia going Donta Foreman, one of my favorite running backs. I forgot about him. Honestly, I probably should have gone Jalen Tolbert and Gus Edwards or Donta Foreman with my last two picks, but I didn't because my eyes got big when I saw Devontae Parker, even though it is just Devontae Parker. Not a smart move on me. Not that smart late round drafting that I'm normally trying to hit on, but I'm really glad y'all have been paying attention in some of these live streams to some of our videos where we're advocating Donta Foreman, where we're advocating Gus Edwards. Great pickup there for sure. Josh Palmer too, like that pick in the last round. Has some pretty big upside there if he can solidify the number 3 role for the Chargers. That Alec Pierce pick, I'm not a huge fan of Alec Pierce. You guys already know that, but if you are, hopefully y'all can prove me wrong and he ends up being what they drafted him to be. He does have second round draft capital, I believe, but we'll see. And Irony Marcel Dabo talked really good about Pierce after training camp. All right. Hey, I hope I'm wrong. If anybody can turn Alec Pierce into a wide receiver I want on my fantasy team early, it's Matt Ryan. So we'll see. We'll see. But y'all, I do not think I'm gonna do another mock tonight. Because all in all, honestly, I'm pretty tired. And I've done about coming up on 6 hours of live streaming in back-to-back days. So I am gonna hold off on another mock tonight. But if there is any other if there are any other fantasy related questions you would like to get off real quick before I wind down on the stream, throw them in the chat for sure. I had a really good time mocking with y'all. I had a really good time talking about some players that I knew that y'all would snipe me on in the mock in terms of, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, basically Slim's whole squad. I'm glad I got Kenny. I overdrafted Kenny Gainwell and Robert Tonyan though. So and Anthony, what time tonight? I'm probably gonna shut it down tonight very soon. But if you have any more questions, throw them in the chat. And this is the last stream that we do this week. But we will be back Tuesday for our next public live stream. Nick will be back, so we'll be back in full force. Wednesday, members only stream. Thursday, another public stream. We will be doing more live streaming during the season too. So if you're new to the channel, if you haven't tuned in a while, we will be live streaming more in season. I'm thinking of just live streaming with the members the whole time the Thursday night game is going on, and so y'all can just chill with me or have me on mute or whatever the hell y'all want to do, and chill and watch the Thursday night football game with me. But we're also in season, we normally do a live stream Saturday night to help y'all with your start sit questions on a week-to-week basis. We also go live usually at 10 a.m. Sunday, so we're live streaming from 10 a.m. up until kickoff. So if you have any more last-minute questions you want to get in, we're usually live for a good 5 hours over there between the Saturday night stream and the Sunday morning stream in season. We also we're gonna keep doing the Tuesday stream. We're gonna keep doing the Wednesday stream for y'all members. Y'all already know we're gonna be doing we might move the Thursday night stream, or at least shorten the Thursday night stream because of the game. But again, if you're a member, you just come into the members only Discord or video or YouTube, because I think we're going to be live streaming on to our members in the Discord as well, and y'all can watch the game on me then. No stream Fridays, unless it's something that y'all really ask for, y'all really demand. But Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to be streaming 5 days a week. I can't wait for the season. I really can't. We are getting close to the season. Can't wait for the season. Can't wait to be in a league with our members. Can't wait, y'all. A lot of exciting things to come this year. This year should be a good year for fantasy football. Always love to have you in these live streams. Thanks for mocking with us. Thanks for all y'all questions. Thanks for all y'all support. Much appreciated. I hope everybody here has a great weekend. Don't do anything too crazy. But I hope y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you back here next week, live and on time, 6 p.m. EST on Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday if you're a member. And once again, thanks y'all. Made it fun for me while Nick was out visiting friends and spending time with his friends to celebrate, get married and all that. But always fun with y'all. Thanks. Slim, I hate you for sniping me. Iron, kind of hate you for sniping me. Hope y'all have a great weekend, and we'll be back next week. Peace, y'all.